All right, this week we're going to continue our discussion on sleep. And sleep, as I talked about last week, if you missed it, go back and watch. But sleep is critical for overall good, optimal health that we're all hoping to shoot for here, right, in this program. So as a good CEO of our own health, we have to make sure that we get good quality sleep. Now, last week I talked a little bit about magnesium and how that was my number one tip to help people sleep. So this week we're going to add some tips to that, and we're going to deep dive into magnesium and 2 other supplements. So let's start with some easy tips that you can do on a daily basis to really help improve your sleep quality. Number one is pretty simple. Just try to set a regular schedule. So whatever time you want to start preparing for bed, try to make that as consistent as you can each and every night, and the same on what time you get up. If you can try to set that schedule and get up at the same time or near the same time each day, that can really help reset what's known as the circadian rhythm of the body, where it knows that it's time to go to bed and it knows that it's time to get up. So number one is just set a regular schedule and try to stick to it as much as possible. Number 2 is try to sleep in a room that is cool. When we prepare for sleep, one of the things that happens is the thyroid will start to wind down or slow down. And when that happens, it decreases the body temperature. And that's why a lot of times when we're sitting around at night, maybe later in the evening and you're watching TV, maybe you're a little cooler and you want a blanket, whereas you normally during the day wouldn't use that blanket for that same temperature. But your body temperature is actually designed, and my body temperature is designed to go down as the evening comes and as we get prepared to go to sleep. So being in a cool room can really help improve the quality of sleep. And the ideal temperature would be somewhere between 65 and 70, but you want a room at least where you have to put the covers on to keep yourself warm. So don't be in a really warm area if possible. And then one of the big things, I think I mentioned this last week also, is we want to start cutting out what's known as blue light. Blue light are what we see as white lights often, but we think of them as blue lights, like LED lights, lights from our cell phones, lights from our iPads, lights from our computers, lights from our TV. All those things are blue light to the body. And blue light suppresses melatonin production. And we're going to talk about melatonin in a little bit, but melatonin is our sleep hormone that our body makes. So when we are looking at these types of light, it's telling our body that it's daytime, and it's telling our body that it's not time to go to sleep. So that can be a real problem. Now, I said we were going to talk about a way where you may be able to still read your computer or look on your computer, read your Kindle, read your iPad, or watch television without having to turn it off. You can still block some of the blue light, and those are blue blocker glasses. And 2 brands that I think are really good are Swanwick and TrueDark. Both of those make really high quality blue blocking light. So for me, a lot of evenings I want to watch the ball game or whatever, but I'm preparing for bed, I can put on my blue blockers. I have Swanwicks, and I can watch the ball game, and I'm blocking the blue light. Now, it's not perfect. The blue light's still hitting my skin and different things, and research shows that even blue light hitting our skin, not just going through our eyes, can block some of the melatonin production. But it's much better than not blocking it out of my eyes. So that's a trick or a tip that we can use to continue to use our devices, our TVs, and most, if not all, new Apple devices for sure, come with what they call nightshade, where it will automatically, you can set it up to automatically at a certain time each night start blocking some of the blue light out of the device itself. So there's different ways to do that, but the light coming into our eyes and the light hitting our skin is very important. So if we can at least block those type of lights from our eyes, that's a big advantage to helping not only go to sleep, stay asleep, but quality of sleep, which is where we're going to go now. So do those 3 things: set schedule, be in a cool room, and try to block blue light 2 to 3 hours before bedtime. Now, quality of sleep is super important. So one of the things that we see is now, there's all kind of ways to measure your sleep. You can use your Apple Watch, you can use different apps, you can use lots of different things to measure your quality of sleep. But one thing we want you to do is get a really high quality of sleep and a restful sleep so that you wake up the next morning feeling awesome. And that's what we want to talk about. So the best way, and I gave you this tip last week, is to use the OptiU 5 organic chelated salt magnesium product that I formulated. That is the number one thing that we use for sure. We have people take 3 or more of those capsules at bedtime, and it really not only helps their ability to go to sleep, stay asleep, but it really helps the quality of sleep. And people will tell me after just one night, they measure their sleep and they'll say, man, it went up significantly after I used this product. We have successfully helped hundreds, if not thousands, of people get off Ambien and those type of sleeping pills by using the magnesium product alone. But oftentimes for people, we need to go a step or two further, and we can certainly do that. Not to mention all the other benefits that magnesium has, but right now we want to concentrate on the sleep. It helps reduce sleep. It helps reduce the inability to go to sleep. It helps with muscle relaxation, and it helps actually produce energy inside the cells that is necessary when we sleep to clean up the body and do a lot of the things that go on at night that we talked about last week, like hormone production and those kind of things. Then for people who have what I like to describe as mind chatter, like maybe they're busy, they own their own business, they have a family to worry about, whatever it is, but their mind is racing. They're waking up, or they're not able to go to sleep, or they get up or they wake up in the middle of the night and they say, I can't go back to sleep because I got to think about all the things I have to do the next day. L-theanine is an amino acid from green tea that is amazing at turning off the mind chatter, at calming the mind chatter. It's a very good anti-anxiety also. It's an antidepressant, natural anti-anxiety, and it helps increase what's called alpha brain waves. And increasing alpha brain waves allows us to kind of tone down that mind chatter, and it helps us actually think clearer, and it helps us concentrate on what we want to concentrate on, like being asleep instead of worrying about what we got to do for the next day. It's also great during the day to help focus us, and we use it with all our ADD and ADHD folks because it can really help, again, with that mind chatter. It helps those alpha brain waves increase, and then I can pay attention to what I need to do and not worry about all the other things. L-theanine also is great if you're nervous before a flight or before an event because it doesn't cause any drowsiness at all. It just helps calm the system and increase those alpha brain waves. Also shown to decrease melanoma growth, so skin cancer growth. So lots of benefits to our L-theanine product also. Then last but not least of the things that we use to help people rest is melatonin. Melatonin is the natural hormone made by our bodies when it's nighttime. That's why we want to block the blue light, because when the sun goes down, it's the indicator for our bodies that, hey, it's time to start making some melatonin. Melatonin is an antioxidant. Melatonin is great against cancers. Melatonin is great against estrogen signaling. And I talked last week about how women who sleep less than 6 hours a night have higher rates of breast cancer. And that is probably tied to lower melatonin levels in those folks who don't sleep 6 or more hours a night. And we know that it's anti-cancer, and we know that it has estrogen signaling effects. And that estrogen can often be a contributing factor when it goes, we'll call it rogue, in breast cancer and lots of other cancers. So melatonin is depleted by a lot of our drugs that we take today, as is magnesium. So blood pressure drugs, certainly any hormone drugs, any hormone replacement, whether it's birth control or any of those hormones, can deplete magnesium, can deplete melatonin. The sleeping drugs, ironically, like Ambien and that drug class, actually deplete melatonin. So that's why those type of drugs can be addictive, because then the person says, well, I can't sleep without it. And part of that is because they've turned down their melatonin production. And without melatonin, it's really hard to sleep. So we have 2 options for melatonin, and some people use both. I personally use the magnesium, the melatonin, and the L-theanine. And I use both versions of the melatonin. I use an immediate release chewable that helps get into the system quickly so that we can go to sleep better. And then we have a sustained release capsule so that we can stay asleep. Some people don't need to eat any of the melatonin or the L-theanine, and they do just fine with the magnesium. But I don't necessarily need the melatonin to sleep efficiently. But what it does is it's got all these other benefits, and it does help me get a better quality sleep, and I do measure that. as does the L-theanine, because I'm always thinking about things like this. What am I got to learn for the next video? What do I need to do to help the people in this CEO membership get better results? So I'm thinking about those things all the time. So that really is the combination that works for me. So I try to set a good schedule and try to stick to it as close as possible. I make sure that my room is cool at night, and we have a nice ceiling fan that goes to really get us some movement of air in there. And what was my third one? I've gone blank here. Block the blue light. Yeah, how could I forget blocking the blue light? So we want to block the blue light, and then I take my magnesium before bedtime, I take my L-theanine before bedtime, and I take both forms of melatonin before bedtime. And I'll tell you that I feel like I sleep great. I don't sleep 8 hours every night, but I certainly get 6 or more every night, and they're usually very high quality. So we'll talk more about it as we go, but hopefully this has been very beneficial, and hopefully you will understand, hopefully if anything you get out of this is how critical sleep is to overall health and wellness, and how we're gonna have to improve sleep if you're not sleeping well before we can get you to really get what I'll call optimally healthy and well. So thanks, and we'll see you next week.